What's up, guys and gals? Your host with the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys the next piece of One Piece, chapter 1073, entitled Miss Buckingham Stussy. And before we even get into the cover page, it seems like we're answering a lot of damn questions. Nobody even had a time to make bigger theories, really, this week, because everyone was making theories. Okay, who is Stussy? She's a clone? Who is she a clone of? What's going on? Is Weevil a clone? Those were all the theories. And everything was sort of proven right, all in one go. So what was actually proven is, number one, Stussy is the mysterious person, though probably the original Miss Buckingham, mad scientist from the cover page when we saw, here's Caesar, here's Queen, here's Vegapunk and all that stuff. There was a woman in the background looking very much like Stussy. A lot of people assumed it was. Basically confirmed that it is. We also got the fact that the mysterious person that Vegapunk contacted is also the betrayer in this chapter, CP0's Stussy, the clone. Okay, so there's another question answered, alongside of the fact that a very specific person that everyone said, Miss Bakine, Weevil's mother, is the original Buckingham Stussy from the Rock's Pirate crew. Everyone made the theory, everybody made the connection, and Oda wasn't trying to circumvent some crazy workaround. And for those disappointed that the mysterious person is not Scott Gabon or Shiki or somebody like that, it's like, well, everyone sort of had the same idea that it's most likely someone either from Whitebeard's crew, Roger's crew, or Rox's crew, and clone of a Rock's pirate. Technically, people were correct. It is a former member of the Rock's crew, so, you can't be too disappointed by that big reveal. So yeah, a lot of answers, specifically from theories, from people speculating in this chapter. Also, the cover page, kind of funny that we saw, Queen and Judge and Caesar all trying to make these, oh, look at this, I'm going to make an evil ice demon potion with my decanters of acid. And Caesar's like, look at this devil fruit, which a lot of people assumed was either his own devil fruit or maybe Stussy's vampire fruit or something like that, which that is one thing we don't really get the answer to in this chapter. We still don't know, is she a type of mink or something? Is she a bat mink or something like that? Or is she a devil fruit user? And is it a mythical zone? Is it a regular bat zone? Is it the mythical model Dracula fruit, succubus fruit? Who knows? We still don't get the answers to that. But it is funnily enough that all of them are like, we made all these crazy evil inventions, and then Vegapunk wins by making gunpowder blossom into flowers, and he wins the Aibel Peace Prize to do so and stuff. So it's kind of a twisting the knife for those three in the background on the cover page. As I said, we move on to the actual chapter proper. Lucci gets sort of blindsided and taken aback, and Stussy even admits, because the power scales were going wild in the comment sections last night and stuff when it initially dropped, and people were like, Stussy over Lucci trash, blah blah blah, but nobody seems to have reading comprehension, because Stussy admits that in a head-on fight, in a head-on clash, she probably doesn't have much of a chance, or at the very least is saying it's an uphill battle for her, so it would be foolish or stupid for her to try to take on Lucci head-on, so she had to use deceitful, underhanded tactics to get the drop on him, so she can use sea stone lipstick, I guess, it sort of looks like that, which she stabs him in the neck with to keep him from, I assume, transforming, or the fact that she does use her fangs to bite down and put him to sleep. But the sea stone, of course, weakens him, maybe to the point that he could, I suppose there's the option, people were bringing up, could they arm and hockey up their neck when she tries to bite down and break her teeth or something like that? Or in this case, with Lucci specifically, did she do this sea stone thing not only to weaken him, but because maybe if he transformed into his awakened zone, his hybrid form, his animal hide, maybe she wouldn't be able to pierce through it, put him to sleep, so she's sort of doubling down on her efforts in a way. It's possible. Either way, she does manage to take out Lucci and Kaku, and Brook and Zoro like, what the hell is going on? Why is CP0 fighting CP0? The one thing I have to question here is, what the hell are paper arts? I know what hockey is, I know what devil fruits are, I know what the Rokushiki techniques are, and I know all this stuff. I don't remember there being another fight, Fishman Karate even. Paper arts? The after image technique? What's going on? When did this become Dragon Ball? Kakarot, the after image technique. What about the after image technique? That kind of idea? okay, wait a minute. What are paper arts? And are there more of them? Is this a specific fighting style to Stussy? It doesn't seem to have anything. If this is a devil fruit, which it most likely is, it doesn't seem to have any connection to her actual ability, but she's got an after image technique that allowed her to get the drop on Lucci, get behind him in time to see Stone and bite down on him. So, where did this come from? Seems sort of out of nowhere. I wonder where you learn the paper arts. Do you go to an origami class and you just say, alright class, today we're going to learn how to blindside a secret agent. You know, it's like, whoa, I thought we were making paper cranes. So, God knows what's going on with that one. But yeah, so that's basically what happened to CP0 in that regard. Now, as I said, we find out that this was basically the mysterious person. Some people are probably disappointed that we're not seeing Scopper Gabon yet. A lot of people hype. I'm hyped to see Scopper Gabon. I'm quite confident he's still alive. But either way, also brings up a point that she cannot override. Now, there was a lot of people, I noticed, a lot of people not fully understanding the fact that Stussy can't override the orders of the Seraphim because she has the same level of authority. And it's one of those things where if you're in the military and such, you cannot supersede another person of the same rank's orders. It's one of those very gray areas, depending on your unit and how it's formed and yada yada yada. But the best way I can describe, because a lot of people were confused and said this doesn't make sense, it does make sense. Pretty much, if you have lieutenants, okay, let's just use just a rank, lieutenant. A lieutenant gives a company an order to, stay here and guard this hill, right? And another lieutenant comes along and said, what are you still doing here? We have to go. Technically speaking, there is a little bit of whose lieutenant's orders do you follow? Because the first lieutenant gave you an order, no matter what, defend this hill. Another lieutenant of the same rank coming along and giving you a different order, which one do you follow? There's a little bit of discrepancy. Now, regardless what military you follow and what actually happens, since it's not someone of a higher rank, technically speaking, they are generally have to follow the first in a lot of different military situations, depending on the situation and whether it's Air Force, Navy, etc. You usually follow the first orders, and someone of similar rank cannot override your initial orders, whether written or verbally given. That's the general chain of command. Now, of course, there are many exceptions in many different cases, and I'm no expert in military ordering or laws. However, as far as the Seraphim go, who have been programmed to a degree, it would make sense for Vegapunk to completely forget this idea and make sure there is no gray area. So it's like, cannot compute, who do I follow? So that they don't get overridden by all these different orders. Red, blue, red, blue, red, blue from the same authority chip. Is that whoever gave the initial order is the only one who now has the authority to tell them to cease that order. So, so they can't, so until they have carried out the initial order given to them, unless someone of higher authority or the initial person, in this case Lucci, goes up and cancels the order, they won't stop until they've completed that first order. It's much more simplistic. People were trying to overcomplicate it, but it's quite easy to understand. It does make sense. Stussy can't override them, but that's why the Vegapunks, like Edison and stuff, and Lilith are on their way. So, and they do arrive. Now, Brooke and Zoro are like, whoa, these Seraphim are destroying everything. We better go and help out and stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, these kids look kind of familiar. And remember, they haven't met them yet. Remember, because at first, when I first read the chapter, I was like, wait a minute, they saw Jinbei. And they're like, whoa, it's Jinbei and stuff. It's like, no, Zoro and Brooke been on the ship. They haven't seen any of this. And they're like, yeah, this is looking weird. And they notice Kuma and Jinbei. And Zoro's like, yeah, there is something really familiar about them. Especially him. And we know who we're talking about here. We're talking about S-Hawk. S-Hawk. Zoro and S-Hawk finally clash. A lot of people were looking forward to it, to see how powerful S-Hawk is, to see how powerful Zoro is, because we've already seen how powerful S-Hawk is. And here's going to be the great power scaling thing, okay? We're going to get into this, because right before the order is given, basically they have a clash and then they end up being back on their side and they stand down. But initially, Zoro and S-Hawk do have a clash. Now, this is where Zoro, bang, clashing with him, right? And in the first scans, they actually got rid of the sweat drops off of S-Hawk's face. The trolling, the Sanji lover, the Sanji simps, and the Zoro haters are so powerful that they actually brought out scans erasing the sweat beads off S-Hawk just to try to discount and disprove and diss Zoro in a power scaling debate. It is hilarious. And you can't tell me it's not Sanji fans that did it. Alright? It's not Blackbeard fans or Rayleigh fans or Garp fans that are actually editing clashes with Zoro, okay? It's not Robin fans and Frankie fans. It's Sanji fans. Only Sanji fans would come up with this shit. And I'm not saying the Zoro community, the Zealots in the Zoro community are any better, but it was absolutely hilarious. It was like, which one is true? Nobody knew. The Raws were the Raws edited for the Zoro fans, or was the first scanslations that came out, were they the real ones, and who was the edit? Well, I'm going to take 2 out of 3. I've read 2 translations now, and the Raws, and 2 out of 3 had the sweat drops. So the big thing about the power scaling here is that Zoro is pressuring S-Hawk, and Zoro seems to be like, all right, kid, and there's no sweat beads on him. There is sweat beads on S-Hawk, and he's like, what the hell? You know, he's actually being pushed back. Now, from a power scaling perspective, who else was in a clash with S-Hawk? And who had the sweat beads in that clash? A certain Yonko Marshall D. Teach, I believe, was sweating when up close and personal, even while using Armament Hockey, up against S-Hawk, and S-Hawk seemed to be doing just fine. Also, apparently, according to the Boa sisters, left without a scratch on them. Meanwhile, Zoro, so S-Hawk pressured pressured Blackbeard, and now Zoro's pressuring S-Hawk. I'm not going to say anything more, but that is the sequence of events. I'm just saying. So, very, very funny power scaling, and the fact that the actual scans were edited, just the toxicity is just mind-boggling to me. It really is. So anyways, because Zoro came in from up high, you know, it was like clash, and then boom, there was the shockwave back. He goes back, S-Hawk's ready, he's like, alright, so S-Hawk sort of skids back, Zoro gets flung back sort of idea after their initial clash, and then the boom sort of idea, and now they're both ready to take on another strike, and then the order are given by Edison to stop, and they all stop and stuff, so everybody was ready. Sanji shows up just in time to grab Edison, apparently. He's a little too late for any of the fighting, but we didn't really get the Seraphim versus the Straw Hats in any. At best, we got one little clash between S-Hawk and Zoro, and that was it. It was still cool to see, though. Still cool to see. Either way, we move on to the rest part of the chapter, which this is where things get interesting. So there are two very strange things between the translations. So we're also going to have to wait probably for the Viz translation as well, because so the Seraphim calm down, and they talk about that Shaka has, Stussy says, like, I've bound Lucci and Kaku with Sea Stone, and Shaka's still like talking to Stussy and says, we're leaving the island, you should come with us, much obliged, Stussy, and she says, understood, and it's like, okay, we're adding more people, so Stussy is going to come along, the clone of Miss Buckingham is going to come along with the Straw Hats as well. Now, in the initial translation, Luffy is still looking for Bonnie and Old Man Vegapunk. We don't know what happened after she witnessed the memories or something like that, right? So maybe they got transported off, because remember how the pawpaw fruit works. This was clearly not a bubble of pain. We know that. We know that Vegapunk was lying about that. Bonnie was convinced that these were the memories, and the flashback nearly confirmed it. But maybe when you take in the memories, maybe it did a pop-pop bing, and they got transported somewhere. We have no idea. Because Luffy's still looking, saying, we can't leave Egghead until we find you, old man. Where's Julie Bonnie? Where are you? And this is where we get the title card saying it's an unexpected development that no one saw coming. Dr. Vegapunk's main body Stella body vanished. So that means that the main body, being, of course, the actual old man himself, the Stella of all the Vegapunks, is gone, has vanished, and they can't seem to find him. So we're actually probably going to move on from Egghead Island. Or that, or we're going to jump back to Luffy in a couple of chapters, and we're going to see he's still stubborn there on the Sunny. I'm not leaving without the old man, or something like that. I don't know how the direction is going to be. I really think our next chapter is going to not feature the Straw Hats. I don't think we're going to see the Straw Hats in the next chapter. That's what's really interesting to me, because we're getting title cards. It's like, and it's truly because CP0 is down, the Vegapunks are saved, we know who the mysterious person is, Bonnie and Vegapunk are clearly zip, zop, gone, probably due to the pawpaw fruit experiments or something like that, and boom. Like, that's the sort of end. I told you guys, and I believe this concretely, that Egghead Island was going to be a very short sort of post-Wano arc, not really its own arc. It was going to be sort of a mini arc at best, or part of the larger post-Wano before the new real arc. And I think we leave Egghead right here, because we get the title card, then we jump over to Marco at Sphinx in the New World in Whitebeard's hometown, and we jump over to the Navy base and stuff like that, or at least on one of the ships with Kizaru. There's just a lot of crazy stuff going down this in this chapter, because we know that the Marines ended up trying to attack while Marco was away, and he's like, I'm really sorry, kids, I'm sorry you were in such a bad spot. The Marines showed up. They seem to be sort of on the pace, sort of the dirty, squirrely ones. I don't know if this is the same guy as, even though he's got the whiskers. Is this supposed to be the dude who was sleazy with Arlong? Wasn't he like I don't know, but he seems to remind me of the guy. He's just like fatter faced or something, but I forget his name. But is he the Marine that was, you know, stole the money from Nami and all that stuff? Arlong Park, way back when. I'm not sure. I don't think he's name dropped here, but the sleazy Marines come, and they're after, of course, Whitebeard's big treasure. Marco has kept saying there is no big treasure. Weevil believes it, or at least Weevil's mother believes it, and you know, the Marines believe it, and it's like, Whitebeard must have all his treasure here and stuff. Now Weevil actually comes to defend, of course, because remember, he's like a big ignorant child, and of course now we're almost completely convinced that he's a clone, especially with the stitches. There's been a lot of theory videos you can watch and check out on other channels, but with the stitches, that's similar to like Hogback and how Oars was put back together and stuff like that. So once again, I believe it's sort of a failed clone, and we can get into the theory in a minute, but fact of the matter is that Weevil shows up and just goes, nope, stay away from my dad's home, you know, big meanies and stuff like that. So they completely take out, so Weevil takes out the Marines, and they all run tail. Now he actually ends up getting captured, but as I said, I think it is that same weaselly, a rat-faced dude from the Arlong Park, one of those dirty-ass Marines. So Weevil actually defends the hometown, takes them all out. So they request, so they know that Weevil has actually shown up on Sphinx, and they're like, hey, we're requesting backup and stuff like that. Now, Miss Buckingham, as I already stated, so Miss Buckingham Stussy, the original, is right here. It is Miss Bockeen. She was one of Mad's scientists or something like that, at least part of the group in some regard. It depends on which translation you read. One said former scientist, and one said a freeloader off of the Mads program or something like that. A self-proclaimed scientist was another one. So, but she is definitely the former member of the Rocks Pirate. She is the original Buckingham Stussy. And she's here telling Marco that you need to give me Whitebeard's inheritance. You need to give back my son, because Admiral Green Bull showed up. And hilariously enough, because Green Bull is fucking got only L's in this series thus far. He's only taken L's, and now he finally gets a bit of an actual on his W, and we don't even get to see a panel of him. It's off screen. He captured Weevil. Now, alright, if anybody still likes Green Bull, if anybody likes that fucking, you know, that elitist, racist, crazy fucker, that slave-loving asshole, if anybody still likes that guy, you go right ahead, but he's still taking L's as far as I'm concerned. Beating up Weevil doesn't prove shit to me, and because we've never really seen Weevil in a fight, we just know he's apparently strong. He's clearly, most likely, a failed clone of Whitebeard. Because she even says that if you want proof that, because Marco says, hey, I'm grateful, she's like, hey, you need to help me get my son back. You still doubt that he's Whitebeard's kid? Well then, we need to go find Vegapunk. And of course, Vegapunk has disappeared, but he can prove it. Now, once again, she was part of Mads. She's the initial clone success. I'm thinking it was a little bit of a turkey baster situation or a petri dish, one or the other. Weevil is clearly a combination probably of a failed clone of Whitebeard and maybe a botchery on the self-proclaimed scientist that Buckingham Stussy herself is. Vegapunk probably successfully was the one to clone her, and for some reason she was like, hey, we can clone Whitebeard as my kid, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, we can't do that, can't do this. So she attempted using Vegapunk's research. My theory is she most likely did create or clone Whitebeard, just not successfully, and ended up with Weevil in this regard. So that's the way I'm going with it. Now, apparently it was a bit of a battle because Admiral Ryokogu pulled no punches and Weevil was captured. So I'm assuming there was a bit of a more than just a clash. Like, he didn't come in, just capture him and boom, no problem. It sounds like he had to go all out. So Weevil's still getting like these off-screen like feats. I guess he can, you know, go toe-to-toe with an admiral even though he lost. So something to be said for that. So there's a lot there. There is a break next week, and there's a lot there to unpack. As I said, I believe that she probably was the one, probably after the successful cloning. There's something there in the background. Whether you want to say that it was a turkey baster mixed with the cloning technique, if Hogback's research was involved, if Judge's original cloning in its prototype stages, if she tried to do it and botched up what Vegapunk successfully did. There's a lot of ways to go around it. I think that most of the community is going to just accept that Weevil is not legitimately the son of Whitebeard, but more of a failed clone experiment of Whitebeard at best. And I think that'll make a lot of the fan base actually happy. I don't think anybody wanted Weevil to be the legit son of Whitebeard. So I certainly didn't. So it is what it is, but she claims, like, I can hear it in your tone, you still doubt he's Whitebeard's. Well, we know someone who can prove it. It's Dr. Vegapunk. It's like, well, he's only going to prove that there is a blood relation. Well, it'd be the exact same blood because it's, you know, once again, Whitebeard's own blood. So, but it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. The final page of the actual chapter itself is we finally get a name for one of the Gorosei, the highest authority in the world, one of the 5 Elder Stars. It is Saint J. Garcia Saturn. So wait a minute. Pluton, Uranus, Poseidon, and now one of the Gorosei is named Saturn. Well, we need Jupiter. We need, you know, and once again, Poseidon, Neptune, a little bit there. So I'd be curious to see, sort of like how Raftel was Raftel for so long. I'd be curious if all of a sudden because Pluton and Uranus, like, the only one that's sort of out of the scope is Poseidon. But who's Roman name of the sea? Who's Greek name of the sea? It's sort of the same thing. If we start mixing it up, that we already have, by that logic, we have Pluto, Neptune, and now and Uranus, and now we have Saturn. Well, what else we got left? We have Jupiter. How many Elder Stars we got left? We got 4, right? Well, there's Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. I'm just saying, if we count Poseidon as Neptune as just an alternative name for Neptune, like has been done in mythology before, you know, King of the Sea, in Little Mermaid, it's King Neptune. In Greek mythology, it's Poseidon, but it's the same damn person. Big trident, ruler of the sea, the whole bit. All right, I think we can basically assume the names of the other Elder Stars by this. Which one is which? There's the fun thing, but yeah. So clearly they're named after, and hence why they're called the 5 Elder Stars, planets. You get where I'm going with this? Very interesting and stuff like that. They're clearly on. They don't say where they are. I'm assuming they're somewhere in the New World. Kizaru is there with only the one named Saturn, and he says that he one time met Dr. Vegapunk a long time ago, and what's happening now is truly a shame and stuff like that. So that he's on the move. We don't know any context of where is Kizaru going with one of the Elder one of the Gorosei. What's going on with that? What's happening? Where are they headed to? Why are they talking about Vegapunk? Are they going to head to Egghead Island? Do they know where Vegapunk disappeared to with Jewelry Bonnie? We have no idea. There's a lot to unpack, and I think that the next chapter, solely, we don't even see the Straw Hats. I think we continue on with this. I think we continue on with what's happening with Weevil, what's happening maybe with Law and Blackbeard, Garp, Pudding, now Gorosei Saturn. Like, there's so much else to cover in this sort of post-Wano arc stuff. As I said, Egghead was never going to be its own arc. At best, a mini arc or a post-Wano arc at best. Now we're encompassing all this other stuff. Are we going to follow? Where's Sengoku? What's Akainu doing? What's this, that, and the other thing? Kid at Elbaf. There's so many other threads to follow now that I feel like we're sort of done on Egghead. We got what we needed. Not everything. Not as many answers as I expected to get when we finally met up with Dr. Vegapunk, but it is what it is. So anyways, that's the chapter. Pretty big chapter in my opinion. Pretty big chapter. A lot to discuss, a lot to talk about. I'm going to look forward to seeing everybody else's thoughts and everybody's theories going forward, considering that basically not really any point in theorizing about all the connections with last chapter, because we got most of the answer. We got other than where the hell do paper arts come from, number one, and number two, is it the devil fruit or is it not, with Stussy there and what type of devil fruit. We got most of the other answers. You know, we got all the connections, we got all the answers. We're pretty confident that Weevil's just a failed clone of Whitebeard now. You know, so anyway, it is what it is. But chapter 1073, unfortunately with the break next week, that sucks. But, you know, with chapters like this, there's plenty to talk about in the coming week. So, that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe as always. And we'll see you guys back here next time for the next piece of One Piece. Looking forward to it. Know you guys are too. See you back here next time. Sayonara.